Hello, my name is Father Gregory Pine, and I am a Dominican friar of the province of St. Joseph, and this is Pints with Aquinas. At this point, you've probably heard something said about the upcoming Synod on Synodality. Maybe you have participated in a conversation at your local parish, or maybe you've had your opinion solicited at the diocesan level. Whatever it is, you've probably already encountered it at this point. And if you're following it all in the Catholic press or through, online news sites, then you have probably heard people express their frustration with the process or their skepticism regarding its eventual fruits. All of which, is meet and just, and I wouldn't gainsay many of those judgments or many of those evaluations. But I also think that as Christians, we have an opportunity here to grow in virtue and to grow as protagonists of the Christian mystery, right? So kind of to contribute to this work whereby we bring about the glory of God and the salvation of souls, and to do so in a peculiar way. So I want to talk about it in that light, not closing our eyes to the potential pitfalls, but opening our eyes to the potential opportunities. So here we go. All right. So at the outset, we can't be Pollyanna-ish about it or naive. We have to acknowledge the fact that, yes, this could be crazy. And when you look at the German church and the way in which the synodal way has been kind of progressing along in that setting, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So certain fundamental questions are being asked, which cause a lot of us serious anxiety and distress. So, concerning the ordination of women or concerning the viability of the priesthood itself, there seems to be a kind of Marxist tendency, even more than that, like a kind of nihilistic tendency that is at work in these conversations. And it's scary. And so when these proposals are set forward in our setting or in our culture or in our context, it's like, bah! Because if the language gives us to understand that the same somewhat Marxist-inspired process will take place here in, like Lincoln, Nebraska, or in Sacramento, California, it's like, no. keep it away, keep it off at arm's length. So I think that is a responsibility of the church's pastors to explain the process in a way that doesn't cause that anxiety or grief. To say the church's teaching, revealed in our Lord Jesus Christ, set forth in the sacred scriptures, unpacked in the tradition, clarified by the magisterium, it's not going to change. But we as Christians can better appropriate it, right? We can come to a better appreciation of it. And so in so doing, we're going to be inspired, to love and to serve in new ways and in new settings. So if we can explain it in those terms, I think that we set ourselves up to have better conversations and also to enact, better proposals effectively. So then, another thing that you hear people say is, all right, so you're contributing at your parish level, they send the results to the diocesan level, those are collated and sent to, like the metropolitan, collated and then sent to, and at the end of the day, like who's going to read this and how much of this will actually matter? And I think that we're afraid that those people who are responsible for collating and communicating the results are just going to operate by their particular bias or ideology. My contribution will be silenced, it doesn't matter, so why bother? Okay. That may be true, but as Christians, we're not called to the producing of results. This is a famous go-to Mother Teresa line. We're called to be faithful, all right? And if we love the church, which we ought to, right? I was about to make him a saint. Father Vincent McNabb, early 20th century Dominican, often said, don't preach to people unless you love them. And I think, we can say a similar thing about life in the church. Don't criticize the church unless it's a criticism that's fueled by love. And when it is fueled by love, you're going to want to reform the church. You're going to make the church yet more beautiful. G.K. Chesterton has a really wonderful meditation about this when he talks about the spirit of reform. He says a lot of people don't really love a thing. They love what it could be, but as a result of which it never comes to be because the movement itself is not inspired by love, but by a kind of vain idealism. Whereas he says if you actually love a thing, then you transform it because you see it as beautiful and then beautify it yet further. And he talks about one of these kind of rundown seaside resorts on the southern coast of England and said, if people but loved, Brighton, it would be resplendent in a kind of bridal glow. And so I think that when we are animated by that love of the church, then we are moved to lend our voice. Because in lending our voice, the church is made more beautiful, all right? So is there a political dimension to this? Absolutely. Do we have to be politically prudent? Absolutely. Can we, contribute to this process in a way that is more politically effective? Yes. Should we do that? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think, again, we should be like, I will just say the true things and annoy everyone, effectively get trivialized, and then call it a success. It's like, no. That'd be like if I said, all right, I'm preaching at this place, and I'm not going to advertise it all because I just want to preach to who the Lord sends. It's like, you are an instrument of the Lord sending people, so you have to do some advertising. And as a result of which, right, you're deeply implicated in this whole process at every level. And so I think when it comes to contributing to these conversations to, the Synod and Synodality and the lead up to it, it's for us to contribute insofar as we are agents, we are protagonists in the life of the church, which is a mystical body, okay? And as a mystical body, we as its members constitute something of the lifeblood of this institution, and as a result of which we want to contribute to its flourishing and to its upbuilding. And so we lend our voice not in the sense that like I am just a political activist or I am just a rabble-rousing curmudgeon, but in the sense that like this is what the body does, right? The body seeks to promote its own health, not just at the biological level, but in this image on a spiritual level. So we are agents, we are protagonists, we are members of the body. We're going to lend our voice so that we can contribute to the life of the body as the body, head and members, progresses towards the glory of God, the fullness of the worshiping Christ. All right, so that's just the basic thing. The second thing too is, yes, I mean, given all of the complications that we have described, which are just a couple of them, right? That's not to mention all the others. We can't, kind of pin our hopes on certain results. But I think that you can make your voice known. So for instance, like in light of Traditionis Custodes, I think a lot of people who worship in the extraordinary form are very dispirited, are very discouraged, and kind of nervous as to where this might end up. Okay, this is an opportunity to give expression to that. When the initial survey regarding Traditionis Custodes was circulated, it was just circulated to bishops. It was just a series of like a single-digit number of questions. Those were collated, and they weren't necessarily discussed within the wider context of the church, and then the pronouncement was made. So this is an opportunity for you to lend your voice to something that affects you very profoundly, something that affects you very deeply. So too, like when it comes to even like just simple basic things like the proclamation of the faith, all right, to like Christian preaching, to sacramental administration, to, the service of the material poor, things like that. What you see is helpful because I think a lot of times the church only sees with the eyes which are at the local level. And so this for us is a way by which to live a kind of subsidiarity, right? This is a way for us to give expression to what we see, to what we know, and to what we love, and then to have that kind of taken up within the body, weighed, judged, implemented potentially. Because we love those things to which we are closest, right? When St. Augustine talks about the order of love, he says that we are best disposed to be of service to those with whom we share a certain union. And if you share a certain union with those, like in your neighborhood and in your parish and in whatever, like in this apostolate or ministry, then you need to make that known. You need to make that love known, testify to that love, so that can give shape to the church, at higher and higher echelons. Not because we're seeking grand solutions for local problems, but because those local problems are things about which you feel deeply, and they're struggles that when you give expression to them, they upbuild the church, right? They make the church more glorious. They make the church more beautiful. And so, there's a sense in which, you're meant to be a protagonist. You're meant to be an agent in this work, which is one of the things that I really love about the American church. There's a sense like, okay, there's a need, or there's a call, there's a vocation. So the Lord is sending me. The Lord is working in and through me. It's like start the podcast, or found the ministry, or host the conversation, or do whatever. Right? Again, there's something afoot, right? And we want to be part of that something that is afoot. So lend your voice, make your things known, make what it is that you know and what you love, give expression to that in whatever the viable setting is, where you think it could be received, albeit crafted with a political prudence which won't trivialize you or marginalize you, but see to the upbuilding of the body and the growth of the life of the church. So are there reasons for which we are to be discouraged? Yeah, undoubtedly. Are there reasons for which we are to be somewhat skeptical, even agnostic about this whole thing? Yes, but there are also reasons for which we are called to know, to love, yet more excellently, to give voice, to give expression to what is at work in our midst, in our members, within the life of the body, at the level we know it and love it best. So that's my encouragement to you, and I'll pray for you in that regard. I ask that you please pray for me too. This is Pints with Aquinas. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Push like. What do you do when you do a thing with the YouTube? Yeah, subscribe to the channel. Push the bell. That's the one. And then you get email updates, which are great because everyone loves email updates about sweet videos. Cheers. Also, check out God's Planning, which is a podcast to which I contribute with 4 other Dominican friars. You can subscribe to that too if you're feeling up to it. We also have retreats this summer. 2 in July, 1 in August. They're going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to them. And I hope to see you there. And you can apply for them at godsplanning.org. And then, third and finally, I wrote a book. It's called Prudence, Choose Confidently, Live Boldly. And this vision of being a protagonist or being an agent in your moral life, in your ecclesial life, is just what I have set forward in that book. And I propose it for you as something, unto the glory of God and the salvation of your soul and the souls of those whom you meet. And I think it's helpful, and I think that you might profit from it. So yeah, that's my commendation. That's all I got. Please, let us pray for each other as we work our way through this day, week, month, year, the life that is set before us, seeking to build up the church, to know and to love yet more perfectly, to the glory of God and the salvation of souls. Boom. Let's go.